Now here's Amazon, which, by the way, Jeff Bezos, the guy who made all his money, he owns the Washington Post. Washington Post printed Snowden's material, right, along with the Guardian. Now the Washington Post had an editorial condemning Snowden. No, he's got to come back and face the music. Well, why do they, if we have freedom of the press, and he gave them the information that they printed, why does that protect the Washington Post and not Snowden? Well, Same thing happened with the Pentagon Papers.
Yes, that's right.
You know, Daniel Ellsberg. If freedom of the press protects that paper that's going to make money off these stories, why doesn't it protect the whistleblower? Okay, that's the key thing in the Snowden case. If the information Snowden gave the American public is information that should have not been classified, that we had a right to see, that we needed to see to be an informed public, where do you get off Adam Schiff? Where do you get off Jeff Bezos in the Washington Post saying he should be in the slammer like Chelsea Manning for the rest of her life, in the slammer for giving? What was Chelsea Manning's big crime? To reveal that our pilots were shooting up innocent civilians. That they were shooting up journalists, including reporters for Reuters. That's the great crime. So what we're really, you got under Barack Obama now a president who has used the Espionage Act more than all those previous presidents combined. In direct violation of this warning from George Washington, beware the impostures of pretended patriotism. In the name of patriotism, you know, you are willing to destroy the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, all of our protections. Now, why do we have those protections? No one ever stops to ask. Are they a luxury just in safe times?
That's right.
Are they something you just have written down because it sounds nice? No. The founding fathers, whatever their other failures, and they were failures. You know,
we're all human.
No, but also white, male, privileged, all that we know. But what did they do? They enshrined a notion of limited government, checks and balances, the right of the individual. They enshrined that, right? Knowing it would be used against them. They were going to be the government. So, you know, they knew the press could be nasty. We had a pretty nasty press. You know, the town crier, the wall posters, you know, penny press, the pamphleteers, you know, Tom Paine. They didn't like Tom Paine. He could roast them, you know.
That's right, even though it was common sense.
But they protected his right and the right of anyone.
That's right.
Free speech, right to people assemble, free press. Why? Because they said that will bring discomfort to us rulers, leaders, elected people. But we need to be made uncomfortable. Why? Because their maximum was power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That's right.
And so it was not for the best of times. No, it was for the worst of times. Because those founders knew, hey, this thing could go south. We could be hanging from the nearest tree. The Brits come back, as they did in 1812.
Well, we also know from the Princeton study in 2014 that the conclusions were 100% oligarchy. They didn't find anything in those bills or those policies that was democratic. So basically, you have a handful of people making all the decisions, all the important decisions for everyone else. And George Carlin used to say, we don't have any choices. Or you can choose what kind of yogurt flavor or cereal, but you don't really have any choices. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's really, so obviously true. And the main point to make about choices, we used to have those pictures when we were celebrating our bringing democracy to Iraq with the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, who had nothing to do with 9/11, and Al-Qaeda couldn't operate in Iraq. So it's one of maybe the biggest or clearest lie in U.S. foreign policy history. You use the attack of 9/11 as justification to go war in Iraq, and that's the one place where Al-Qaeda couldn't operate, and you know he had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with it. So yet when we were bringing democracy, supposedly, you show these women they're in their charter or whatever, and they're holding up their purple stained finger because they had voted, right? I voted. Well, they all voted for what the Ayatollah had told them, or some other tribal leader or something had told them. Well, is that what you mean by democracy? Well, how are we different? If you're making a decision about a president who took us to this war and engaged in policies of torture and lied to us, and you don't have access to the information, right? Like that was what Daniel Ellsberg did with the Pentagon Papers, said, no, I worked on this history within the Pentagon about the Vietnam War, and I see it's a tissue of lies. The American people have been deceived. Now, this is an ex-Marine, Daniel Ellsberg, you know, had supported the war. He said, wait, it's all lies. I got to let the people know. I got to take this to the Washington Post, the first New York Times, then the Washington Post, get it out there. Well, he faced 130 years in jail, you know,
That's right.
under Nixon. So here you have now the same lies. So the vote means nothing. The vote means nothing if they can keep the basic information, whether it's about trade agreements or it's about going to war. If you don't have the information, an uninformed vote doesn't mean anything.
That's right.
It's a parody, right? And that's what you're really talking about now. And these idiots that go around saying, oh, lesser evil, lesser evil. This is maybe if we don't have, we're going to run out of time.
Let's take a little break.
No, before you,
okay.
You want to take a break?
We're down to 30 seconds. So let's take a little break and come back in another segment and continue where we left off.
Let me take my 30 seconds.
Okay.
Cut it out. I just want to say, the lesser evil, that's a big cop-out, because the people who brought this country to misery right now, with wars that can't be justified, with an economy that raped the average American for the interests of Wall Street, they were the establishment. It wasn't Donald Trump. It was establishment that Hillary Clinton and her husband played a very central role in. And they can't cop out now and say, oh, there's somebody worse. Yeah, he's worse, but so what? You created the mess.
Thank you very much, Robert Scheer. This is a nice one on the Now Man Show, to be continued.